Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crisis Watch, your weekly dose of everything Infinite Crisis. Of course, if you don't know a lot about Infinite Crisis, it's a MOBA game with your favorite superheroes. Of course, I'm Axeltoss, joined by Tom. Usually you're over there casting League of Legends.
Somewhere over there on the off screen, but that's okay because normally you're on the strategy side of things. So now we get this insight into a MOBA.
I'm actually really excited.
Are you?
I've never got to do anything with you before. So
well,
is that weird?
Any casting things?
Sure, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Is that weird? I hope it's not weird.
I don't think it's weird at all.
Sick. Okay, so I'm super excited. Infinite Crisis is what we're talking about. And we've had some recent changes. Of course, there's a new map.
Definitely.
Called
Coast
City. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Now, Coast City versus Gotham Heights is probably the first comparison people want to see. Gotham Heights, obviously, kind of the Dominion game type, whereas Coast City has laning phases associated with it.
Yeah, Coast City is going to be a dual lane map with a big objective in the middle. There's going to be a giant doomsday device that you guys are going to be fighting over. That, of course, is going to swing the power one side or another, so it's definitely something you want to keep your eyes on. But you also have those power relays located throughout the map. They're points that when you capture them, they want to giving your team a bonus. So those are things that are going to swing the favor more as you try to fight over for that center point, eventually destroying the enemy's power core.
Yeah, there's a clear laning phase to the game, where but there's also those other objectives that are going to kind of pull players away from their lanes, where positioning is going to start becoming very important, identifying where your opponents are, where you are in relation to them, making sure you're not overextending. That's going to be a big deal. There's also a bunch of shields in the ground where you can hide. I don't know the specific term, where you're going to have to take stealth into consideration, or you have opportunity to take opponents off guard. You know, sight is going to be very important. Just a very dynamic map, very cool map, a lot more variety. I love seeing an Infinite Crisis, so really excited to get into that. We're going to talk about that a lot today. Also, we have another champion spotlight. Last week, we focused on Gaslight Batman. Today's all about Cyborg.
Today's definitely about Cyborg. I'm pretty sure Goldenboy's a little bit upset about this one because this is his go-to character here.
Okay.
Cyborg's another one of those marksman-type characters, so he's got a bunch of physical damage he's going to be throwing at you, and he has a ridiculous amount of kite ability, as you'll wind up seeing when the preview winds up coming up. But he has cybernetic targeting that's going to single out certain targets. It's going to synergize extremely well with his tracer shot, which will deal bonus damage once it actually locks onto somebody. He has his charge burst just for a massive amount of damage, and then combining all that with the rest of his kit, he just really hurts. There's nothing else to say, really.
He's the damage dealer. He's one of those champions that everyone, like when they first start playing, you're going to die to a Cyborg. It's going to happen in your first 5 games. And you're going to say, you know what, that's imbalanced. You're probably going to say that. But then you're going to realize, wait, that person playing the Cyborg is actually probably pretty good and might have been playing a lot longer than me. So Cyborg, it requires a lot of skill to get good with him. But once you get that skill, once you get that down, you can be a serious force in the game.
We used the term kite ability before, and that's what he really excels in.
It's a sick term.
He has a movement speed and attack speed bonus, so he's definitely good at dueling people straight up 1v1. You're going to have an advantage no matter what due to the distance that he has on his auto attack or just that movement increase. The thing is, too, in team fights, in big engagements around capture points or trying to kite around a tower and move around that to not take as much damage as possible, that's where the finesse really comes in, because even though Cyborg can deal a lot of damage and duel people, when you're in these big conglomerated areas with massive amounts of abilities going off and skills going off back and forth, you really have to keep your awareness to yourself, and that's where it kind of separates the right-clicking Cyborgs from the very powerful players. Yeah,
he has a lot of ability to do that crowd control damage, like especially on a point. His ultimate can just fire everything into smithereens. When everyone's trying to take a central point, everyone's there. A great time for Cyborg to shine. You're going to be the guy who's targeted, though, as Cyborg. So you got to be so careful, dipping and dodging, staying away from their scary guys, and getting the damage out there. Probably the core part of any team is going to be the Cyborg, or at least a very big part of it, to make sure that the damage is getting out there. So that's on the schedule today. I'm actually going to sit down and talk with Chris Clay, lead champion designer of Infinite Crisis, and we're going to talk about my play of Cyborg. Last week, we talked a lot about Gaslight Batman. Chris Clay actually specifically designed Gaslight Batman. If you missed that episode, check out the YouTube channel. But oh my, we need to talk about that, though. Oh my God, I was watching the VOD, and like, this is literally my first time playing Gaslight Batman. I was like buying recommended items. I didn't have any particular plan whatsoever. And I'm watching the VOD, and Tom and Goldenboy tearing me apart. I'm like, guys, I understand. I haven't been playing a lot of, like, it's my first time playing Gaslight Batman.
That's okay. It's okay. You got your life coach Tom here. I got all the item names down pat. I'm gonna make sure we go through. It's another marksman, so you got that experience under your belt. But the difference here is not only we're gonna be able to showcase Cyborg, which is a different style of marksman than Gaslight Batman, who had a lot of mobility, a lot of skill shot base. Cyborg doesn't necessarily have as many, so it makes him a little bit easier on a learning curve, but harder to master due to that. But also in the Coast City map, one of the things that you're really going to wind up seeing is because of that laning phase you mentioned before, Cyborg scales extremely well with farming those drones in order to get those credits up, buy the items he needs. So he's going to be one of those guys that in the beginning stages of the game, you can eviscerate him fairly easily, but in the late game, that's when he's really going to shine. So don't worry, we're going to Rocky train you all through this one.
We'll see what happens, guys. We have a very exciting episode of Infinite Crisis on your way. We're going to jump into a top 5 with Gaslight Batman from last week's episode, and then straight into an interview with Chris Clay.
And is just staying away. You want to be staying at your max range if you can, and just staying out of danger, because once you're up close, you can evaporate really quickly. The top of the map, there's a little timeline scrolling by, and there's a little red diamond up there. That's essentially telling you when that next event is going to occur, that next unlock. So keeping an eye on that can give your team, an advantage in planning, so that you can make sure that you're there at the right time for the team fight that's going to occur. Because your turret didn't have any minions from the enemy team around it at the moment, you actually want to bail towards your health.
Yeah.
What that'll do is it'll pull them into the turret, and you can loop around the backside to come back into the fight if they decide to stay on the turret. Poke them with your sonic batarang, which will bounce between them. That stops the capture, reactivates the turret, and it would have let you hold it a little bit longer. Whereas his passive is echoes.
Yeah.
And on a map like this, especially when you're up against 2 stealth champions in Gaslight Catwoman and Vampire Batman, what echoes will do is it will reveal your target for about 4 seconds. And what it also does is increases the damage of your Sonic Batarang and your Bat Scream. You can also place the Echoes debuff on people with your Sonic Shell. That's the one you throw out and detonate. Yeah, that might have been a case where instead of flying away from the fight with that flight, if you had actually swung through to the far side of the fight, it's against your sort of natural instincts. I mean, when you're trying to get away,
especially towards Nightmare Batman.
Right. But actually being aggressive there may have been the better play.